Welcome everybody to this webinar on enabling virtual collaboration. This webinar is co-hosted by Cyberbahn Federal Solutions and Scaled Agile. I'm super excited about talking about how we can enable virtual collaboration in this COVID era that we have all found ourselves in. And we have our guest, Audrey, who is also my co-host today. And we're going to be talking to Audrey about her experiences with virtual collaboration and the work that she's doing. Audrey is an enterprise transformation leader at Scaled Agile. She's also one of the very few SPCTs globally that Scaled Agile has certified, which is the highest level of certification that SAFe offers. So really excited to be co-facilitating and leading this webinar with Audrey. Welcome, Audrey.
Great, thanks, Harry. It's great to be here with you.
Absolutely, same here. So Audrey, at currently these times, it's a test of agility, right? It's a test of everything that we stand for, everything that we have, enabled organizations for. And it's a test of how we as organizations, how we as professionals, how we can be agile and how we can enable collaboration across our teams. One of my mentors, he always used to say, collaboration is to high-performing teams as location is to real estate. Collaboration is to high-performing teams as location is to real estate. Because at the end, when it comes to high-performing teams, high-performing organizations, it is about enabling seamless collaboration that's going to help them become that high-performing team that we want them to be. So I'd love to learn from you, Audrey. How's your experience with, enabling virtual collaboration across organizations been before COVID and after COVID? We've always had distributed teams, onshore, offshore, and so on, right? So tell us a little bit about your experience around this and what has worked, what has been a challenge, and how has tools played in, and so on.
Sure. Thank you, Harry. I think the biggest thing that I always think about is all of the tools that you have in your toolkit already. So all of the facilitation techniques that you have, all of the different patterns that you've been following before that have enabled collaboration. They don't have to go away just because we're in this virtual setting. We have a remote trainer badge that a lot of the SPCs around the world are starting to take. And a lot of that, I'm trying to share different ways for people to think about. It isn't just pre-COVID and now all of a sudden we're in this environment, I have to change everything. That's not the case at all. We're still collaborating. I can still see you even though we're not physically in the same area. So what are some of those tools? The number one thing is, what are some of those tools that are going to enable you to have these types of conversations and be able to continue to collaborate and interact together? That's one of the biggest. Don't get me wrong, I am just waiting with bated breath until we can get, back into the classrooms again in the physical space and with all of our agile release trains and things like that. One of the things that I also want people to consider is, even before this, there were a lot of distributed teams. I was at a PI planning once that had teams in 7 different countries. You can imagine the time zone differences that we had. One of the challenges could have been collaboration, but it wasn't, because we had tools in place to enable it. We had video. We had making sure that if an entire team wasn't together, that they had a separate space. So it's not just the video, it's the space that they have where they can have these conversations that they need to. It's making sure that if I need to talk to somebody in another area, how do I do it? Is there a specific space for, hey, we're in this location, we need to have some conversations with maybe the coaches or scrum masters or something like that in another location. So a lot of these things that it just kind of got us thinking, how do we need to step up our game? Especially since even if we had 7 different locations, now we might have like 200, right? We might have like everybody's in their own setting. Everybody has different distractions. One of the things that I always want to consider is don't let the tools constrain you. So when you think about this, there's a lot of tools out there that are going to enable collaboration. But if they don't completely fit what you need, talk to that company, explore other things. There's so much out there. I can guarantee you from the time this all started in February, March, where we were rethinking this and everybody was, hunkered down in their houses and such, what different technologies and what different tools had then is completely transformed now. I feel like every time I log into a Zoom meeting like this, it's like, oh, there's another great feature there. So part of collaboration, yes, it's the tooling, but it's also the mindset. We can't be thinking that just because we're in different areas and we're in our houses and we can't have those, let's go to a break room and have a conversation or something. Maybe there's a breakout room. There's so many different ways that tools can enable you to still have these collaborations.
Absolutely, absolutely love it. And I love the fact that, you mentioned that it's the offline collaboration does not necessarily have to go away. It has to, in fact, this virtual collaboration is out there to complement that offline collaboration that we have, right? And with virtual work really becoming more and more mainstream, and we don't see it going away anytime soon, right? The world has just become smaller, and it's getting smaller and smaller by every passing day. As you said, we're not in the same room, but it almost starts to feel like we are in the same room if you've been doing this for a while, right? I've got a big screen up there. I'm looking at you on a big screen, and it almost feels like, I'm standing face to face with you. And all of these things obviously are enabled through technology. Like at the end, we need some kind of technology to help us connect, whether that is, as something as simple as video conferencing tools, something as simple as team collaboration tools like Slack and, Jira and those things that have been mainstream for a long time. But now there has been much more of a demand and a need for teams to collaborate more seamlessly, for teams to be able to brainstorm, for teams to be able to plan out their increment, run their retrospectives, run their daily stand-ups, have PI planning, and all those things. And that is where, we're going to be talking about LeanCoffeeBrew in a little bit. But before that, we also got a question from one of our attendees in the chat, is what are some of those tools that have worked, well, based on your experience in the past, and what maybe have been some of the challenges, if any, and something that we can share with our attendees here.
Sure. So are you looking for like just different technologies and things that I've used, very specific?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're using Zoom now, and I love Zoom because I just feel like the breakout feature is so easy. Plus it's the one that we use at work. We use that. We use Google Meet. That works as well. I think each one has a few slight nuances. I always say Zoom's my favorite because Meet opens in a browser, and sometimes I forget which one it's open. I'm like, I know I'm still on this call. I just don't know exactly where I'm supposed to be going so I can see everybody again. Yeah, that's the biggest part. Whatever. So I guess instead of naming a number, it's like a couple of key things that I think are really important. You need a main room, right? So that everybody's together. You can have these entire group conversations, but you also need the ability for them to spread out and go into breakout rooms so that they can have some of these more quaint, I'll call it, these quieter, more thoughtful conversations in very small groups. So whatever that tool might be, I know there's WebEx out there. I haven't really personally ever led a call on WebEx, so I'm assuming they probably have some good things. I've heard of Microsoft Teams, or there's a number of things. But I think when you go to choose a tool like that, always think about what are you trying to accomplish? And is that tool going to enable you to accomplish that? And if it isn't, then what are we going to do about it? And then, for collaboration, we have, I guess I should give a plug for our, we have our Safe Collaborate forum that there's the sky's the limit. I feel like we're on overdrive, adding a lot more features and a lot of more functionality there because it's enabling these online PI planning events and all of these other different things.
Yeah, no, totally. Safe Collaborate is a great tool. And obviously Zoom has become so mainstream, and the reliability of Zoom is totally matchless. I don't think there is any other application that is as reliable, as seamless as Zoom has managed to build build its system to be. Right. So that's great. And what are your, as we get into more and more virtual collaboration, more hands-on work with teams kind of, trying to replicate that in the same room experience, that is where these virtual whiteboarding tools also come into play. And, that's where we have LeanCoffeeBrew as well. And there is, many other applications that are out there in the market and that are also gaining traction. And they're not exactly similar to LeanCoffeeBrew, but there's tools like Miro, there's Mural, Jamboard, InVision, right? And what are your thoughts on those, and how has that been supporting you, and maybe even in training delivery, right? Because in training we use many of those tools, and we have the same type of environment that we have in real life when we are trying to collaborate with teams across different time zones and different geographies. So what are your thoughts on those, Audrey?
Sure. So as a side, I will call it hobby, passion of mine, I work closely with Sharon Bowman on the weekends with training from the back of the room. And we recently, 12 of us across the planet, created a virtual edition, and we used Miro in Mural. And that was the first time I used both of those tools. So we created all of the different activities, all of the different things in these two different tools. I just feel like any kind of whiteboarding tool that where the sky's the limit, you can bring things in, you can paste it, you can, group things together, you can, move things, as you need to, you can identify them in different ways, you can do voting, do polling, any of that stuff. For the classrooms that we have been, all of the classes that I've been teaching since April that have been virtual, we have been using Safe Collaborate. It's way different than it was, I will say, in April. Right now, we actually have entire virtual classrooms that are set up for all of the activities. So we built manually, which, in some of our classes, or most of our classes, there's like a ton of activities. So it was a lot of different templates that we built for those. So each tool has its nuances, has its great things. Any kind of whiteboarding where you give people the space to not only ideate, but actually share and see what other people are sharing. That's the really important piece there.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree. Every tool has its nuances, and but I still remember the first time I saw a virtual whiteboarding tool, and it wasn't too long ago. Like it's recent. I believe it was last year, and I was mind blown. Just the fact that different people could move things on your screen all at once, and you can see them move in real time. Like that is just mind blowing when the first time you see it, right? And that shows what's possible with technology. So that's really cool. And obviously, Mural, these tools are also, they've got their own pros and cons. Every tool has its place in the market. And now we at Cyberbahn, we've created LeanCoffeeBrew, which is, creates, it's also a virtual collaboration tool, but with a slightly different spin on it. And you can have different types of meetings. You can, you can have story mapping sessions. You can have brainstorming sessions. You can have retrospectives and other things in there, and in a virtual environment. So, that is something that I'm looking forward to showcase the demo of in a little bit.
Awesome.
Cool. So Audrey, with that, let's have a look at the demo that we have, and it's going to be a video that I'm going to play, about a 6 to 7 minute long video. And then when we come back, we can debrief on this and address any questions from the audience, and wrap up in about 12 minutes, which is the scheduled time for close.
Awesome.
It is a known fact that many companies have turned their working style to virtual after COVID-19 hit. In this most difficult period, virtual tools are playing a big part in enabling teams to succeed with their work. One such tool is LeanCoffeeBrew, product of Cyberbahn Training and Advisory Services, a division of Cyberbahn Federal Solutions. Lean Coffee started in Seattle in 2009. Jim Benson and Jeremy Light Smith wanted to start a group that would use lean techniques to discuss topics of interest with like-minded people. They wanted a group that did not rely on anything other than open-minded people showing up and wanting to learn or create. Key features of LeanCoffeeBrew: host sharing, URL sharing, chat enabled, multiple meeting styles, reporting. Important roles, terms in LeanCoffeeBrew: coffee house, barista, participant, guest. Each company that signs up with LeanCoffeeBrew will have a coffee house account, in which you can enable multiple baristas to facilitate lean coffee sessions. He or she is the owner of the board, barista can initiate the meeting. Participant is the one who attends the meeting. The mandatory parameter to become a participant: she should have an user account with LeanCoffeeBrew. Guest are the one who enters the board by leveraging the URL shared by the barista. She need not have an account. LeanCoffeeBrew currently supports 15 Lean Agile meeting style modules. Let's start with the core module, Lean Coffee. Lean Coffee is the virtual Kanban meeting style, which has 4 columns. Topics: to discuss, discussing, discussed. Barista. Guest. Participant can create the stickies under the Topics column. After all the stickies are created under the Topics column, the participants and guests can do voting based on their preference. Then the topics gets rearranged based on the voting priority. The second step, the barista can move the high-priority topics to the next column called to discuss based on the votes. From there, the barista can move each sticky to the discussing column. In this column, the team will be discussing on the topic using a time box. The barista will set the time limit, which helps the team to narrow down the points effectively. During the discussion, comments and actions can be added. Once the time box is over, you the group can decide to continue on the same topic or move to the next topic. If you move to the next topic by clicking the End Discussion, then the sticky is automatically moved to the Discussed column. Now the barista can go back to the To Discuss column and start the process again for the next topic sticky. After the session is over, the barista can download the PDF report of the meeting by clicking Session Summary. Let us move on to another meeting style module, SWOT analysis. Please note all modules leverage the core. A SWOT template is helpful for strategic planning. As the name indicates, we will be having 4 column topics: strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats. Participants and guests can create statements for any quadrant. Stickies can be moved as needed by the owner, whereas the barista can move all stickies. Barista can add actions and comments. Participants and guests can view actions and add and view comments. Barista can set the timer if the team wants to have a discussion under that statement. Barista can download the PDF report by clicking the session summary. We also have other 13 modules in build in our tool. We are planning to give 1-year free trial of LeanCoffeeBrew experience to people who attend our Lean and Agile trainings. Contact info@cyberbahn.com for more information.
Okay. What did you think, Audrey? How's that for a tool?
I loved it, and Lean Coffee is one of my favorite tools. So I just love the name, anyways. Like coffee. So I love it. What I really liked too is the way that you can actually capture the information to use it afterwards. That's one of the other things that we didn't mention before. But whatever tool that you're using, make sure there's a lot of data, a lot of thought put into what people are putting into any tool. One of the biggest points to me that's really a make it or break it is, what can I grab this information? Can I download it? Can I export it? What can I do to actually have this information instead of saying, okay, just take a screenshot and there you have it. So what are some of the ways that you could do that? And I saw some of that. I love the drop downs where you could actually choose. So instead of saying, going into a tool that you're going to use and saying, oh, wait a minute, hold on, I didn't want this template, I wanted something else. I really liked the ability that you could actually change that real time while you're making that decision. So pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Integration and export functionality. I think those two are critical to a virtual collaboration tool. 100%. 100%. Yeah. Any questions from the group? Any questions you'd like us to answer about LeanCoffeeBrew, the concept, or about anything else about the tool? All right, so we can start moving towards wrap up, Audrey, and people are commenting saying it's a good tool. Yes, so we're definitely, suggest that you check it out and let us know if you have any questions. And as you saw in the video, if you sign up for any of our safe classes or Lean Agile classes, we give out 1-year free trial for the tool for that individual to be able to test it out with their teammates and with their other colleagues. So, Audrey, to wrap it up, I was just thinking about, at the end, what is all of this about, and I believe we are in the business of building high-performing teams, high-performing release trains, and eventually high-performing businesses, high-performing organizations, right? Yeah. And to enable that, to be able to enable those high-performing teams and organizations, collaboration is core. Collaboration, agile culture relies extensively on collaboration at every different level. And this is something, and that is exactly why we're all here today. And the more we can enable our teams to collaborate, the better they can be as a team, the higher performing the faster they can become a higher performing team and start to make an impact on the customers and on the world of business in turn. Any closing thoughts, Audrey, before we close up?
Yeah, I like to call this collaboration reimagined. A lot of times you think of collaboration just as we're together, we have flip charts and stickies on the wall. And, we're all, think of the design thinking phase. We don't think, when we're building large solutions, we're building products for our customers. We don't work in a vacuum. We need to have these interactions. So I always thought, maybe the way I was thinking, it was always from my experiences of in person. We can still do this way. Does it require some creativity and some reimagining? Absolutely. And I think we are well on our way. I'm just seeing fantastic things coming out of tools such as LeanCoffeeBrew that are helping enable that for our businesses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great point, Audrey. Thanks so much. And thanks so much again to our attendees for hopping in. Again, it was a co-hosted webinar by Cyberbahn Federal Solutions and Scaled Agile. And we're glad you were able to be here. If you have questions, we'll be hanging out for a little bit. But otherwise, we are officially closing right now. Thanks again for joining in. And thanks, Audrey.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, everyone.